And the news has come out that Chris Jericho has returned home. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Dr. Wagner Jr. and almost the man who I've always said is almost a wrestler.
What could he have possibly done for the WWE? This is taking one of your top talents. This is the future of your women's division, and you almost ended it. And we're off to a great start. There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Vince McShane with you here. I was not planning on doing anything like this today, but I just heard a little while ago about the passing of Ted Turner, and I would be remiss if we didn't come out here and at least discuss it for a little bit. You know, when we talk about the people who've passed in the sport over the years, I think obviously Hogan most recently being a big name where everyone talks about the business wouldn't be the business if it weren't for him, and it's true. The business, I can only imagine what it would look like today without Ted Turner. If we didn't have TBS and TNT, and if we didn't have the Monday Night Wars, that competition that it drew out, we might still have Duke the Dumpster Droese, and he might be the world champion today. I feel like we don't have a whole lot of choices in wrestling as it is today, simply because they almost all suck, with a couple of outliers here and there, but most of it's just bad wrestling now. And that's when there is some sort of competition, and I guess they don't seem to realize it, but back in the day, we had competition, and that was because of Ted Turner. He lit a fire under Vince McMahon that wasn't there. And that fire doesn't exist anymore. And that's why the product sucks as bad as it does across the board. But again, Ted Turner and professional wrestling, for a guy who was never at a pay-per-view, didn't have a guest referee spot, was never in anybody's corner for a match. Man, what would wrestling be if he wasn't around? What would it look like today if he just decided, I'm not messing with that crap, I got baseball? It would be different. It wouldn't be better. It wouldn't be as good as it is, and that's saying something because it ain't all that good now, but, you know, for whatever we can hang on to right now. Andrew's in the house. Miracle's in the house. No, apparently he's been sick for a while. 87 years old. And if anyone deserves a Purple Heart, it's this guy, because I don't know how many of those 87 years he was in dealing with Jane Fonda in his life. And gosh almighty, if that doesn't get you a Purple Heart, I don't know what in the world will. But you deserve some sort of award for that. Jane fucking Fonda. What a... Got some notes up here. Let's go through it real quick. Ted Turner entered into professional wrestling in 1988. He purchased Jim Crockett Promotions, as we know, rebranded it as World Championship Wrestling, which it was kind of going under that name. At least the program itself was going under that name, so it was a smooth enough transition. And back then, you didn't have social media like you have today, so I didn't even know, when they started all of a sudden saying World Championship Wrestling, well, that was the name of the show anyway. I didn't realize NWA had peeled away for a while until later on down the road. But that all said, says that his motivation was rooted in his long-standing support of professional wrestling on TBS, which he's aired since 1970s. Turner loved professional wrestling. I mean, there's no secret. He did sit front row a few times. I remember a Clash of Champions and probably a pay-per-view. So he was definitely invested in it. And he knew his ratings when his channel was still up and coming and it hadn't gone national yet. His ratings for his TBS 605 show were cash cow That was his anchor, and he knew it. And then when they started doing the Clash of Champions, it just proved that he knew where he wanted to invest his energies when it came to his sports entertainment. And the funny thing is, as soon as AOL bought it over, you saw that start to head in a different direction. Granted, you had the Monday Night Wars, and he was able to get in the door there with the Monday Nitro, and everybody was happy as long as they were winning for 83 consecutive weeks. But you can see that AOL never they never really gave a rat's ass about it if it wasn't for him. But once he sold off the company, his voice got a lot less impactful. He was kind of like, got a new office, and it wasn't as good as the old office. And, this is the way things go in that business world. The WCW built it into a national power from the late 80s into the early 90s. Turner's resources allowed WCW to sign major stars such as Ric Flair, Sting, Lex Luger, and later former WWE names like Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Bret Hart, just to name a few. The WCW became known for higher talent pay, better contracts, and national exposure, conditions that forced the WWE to evolve. That's what it's all about, is competition. The one thing I'll say about today's competition, if you want to call it that, is the wrestlers wrestling for AEW are treated much better than today's WWE. Now, I would not have agreed with that 2 years ago, but since TKO bought it over, then it's... I have a funny feeling you're going to be seeing good talent spending a lot less time under the WWE banner. And I think it's going to get even worse if they do sell to Saudi. I think they're going to have a really hard time getting anyone. But we'll see. The Monday Night Wars, of course, reshaped professional wrestling the way we know it from 1995 to 2001. In a famous meeting, Ted Turner asked Eric Bischoff, what do we need to do to compete with the WWE? Bischoff replied, give me some prime time. Turner immediately ordered, give Eric 2 hours Monday night on TNT. And I've heard Eric tell this story before, and he was like, what? He didn't expect it. And he's like, oh, shit, now I got to go to work. This created the WCW Monday Nitro, debuting on September 4th of 1995. And as they say, the rest is history. The impact of the program is Nitro aired head-to-head with the WWF's Raw, launching the Monday Night Wars. WCW beat the WWF in the ratings for 83 consecutive weeks, an unprecedented achievement. And I doubt you'll see it happen again. Turner's backing enabled the creation of the NWO, one of wrestling's most influential storylines, which helped WCW dominate the late 90s. Again, where would we be with professional wrestling without the NWO? And you wouldn't have the NWO without Ted Turner. This is kind of a Jimmy Stewart moment. Sometimes a man doesn't realize how many other lives his life affects. I have a feeling Ted Turner probably had a better idea than most of us do. But, yeah, I mean, not just the talent, not just the business, but us, the fans. How many people, found something in Stone Cold Steve Austin that got them through a week. You wouldn't have had Stone Cold Steve Austin if you didn't have Ted Turner and Nitro. It's just this incredible ripple effect. And we're only talking about wrestling. We're not talking about baseball. We're not talking about, the other thousands of things that he was doing. WCW's decline and sale back in 2001. Corporate changes, especially the AOL Time Warner merger, removed Turner's influence and support. I don't know if it removed his support. His influence was gone. WCW was sold to the WWF in 2001, ending Turner's direct involvement. And the rest is history when it comes to that. Turner's broader influence on wrestling, he revived national competition, something that had not been seen in the industry for since the territory days. He elevated wrestlers' pay, forcing the industry to improve working conditions. Again, you look at how wrestlers get paid today. Without him, that ain't happening. His networks, TBS and TNT, became long-term household names for wrestling. A legacy continued today for AEW. Many wrestlers credit Turner personally for life-changing opportunities, visas, and financial stability. Of course. Again, even if you never wrestled under the banner, it's because of him that it created this whole ecosystem that didn't exist before. Final legacy for Ted Turner: wasn't a booker or a promoter in the traditional sense. He was a media titan who believed wrestling deserved national primetime respect. His willingness to challenge Vince McMahon reshaped the business, created its most iconic era, and left a blueprint that modern promotions still follow. I think that really recaps about as well as you could hope to Ted Turner and his influence on professional wrestling. And again, the man had plenty of things he did outside of wrestling. Had a lot of special interests, and he was known for being very generous as well. You'd have to be. Again, he stuck with Jane Fonda. I mean, you got to be a saint. You got to be a saint. So that's kind of, I don't know. And it's funny because I was just thinking Tuesday when we were doing our Tuesday Night Titans thing, which was a TNT show back in, no, that was USA, wasn't it? No, it was USA. Well, anyway, the TNT logo made me think of him the other day. And that was kind of weird. And then all of a sudden I find out that 24 hours later, he's not here anymore. Yeah, because it was just yesterday. Hey, caramba. Ooh. I'll try not to think of anybody else off the top of my head. Okay. It's always weird when that stuff happens. Same thing happened with me with Evel Knievel. I just thought of him out of the blue, and then a day later, he's gone. Can't say that about Hogan because I think about Hogan a lot because I'm doing this stuff all the time, right? So he was always kind of in my mind, on my mind, in my mind. Anyway, I just thought I'd come on here and say a few things about the man, recap a little bit, and pay some respects for the guy who really, without him, we wouldn't be doing I wouldn't probably be doing this. I mean, in all honesty, if it wasn't for the Monday Night Wars, I'm sure there would have been something else. I just don't know that it would have kept me because, man, wrestling got bad for a while there. Yeah, you always had someone to bail you out. You had ECW to come along when everything else was shit. And then, again, WCW started getting better. And then they started pushing not only the envelope, but they started pushing the opposition. And that's what made it tolerable. That's what made it something you could watch, talk about. Everybody was watching. During the Monday Night Wars, you'd be hard-pressed to walk into work anywhere and not find people that are talking about it. Even people that weren't wrestling fans were watching it. I know plenty of people that weren't wrestling fans until the Monday Night Wars, and they watched for the stories. And they watched them week in and week out until they started pittering out a little bit. And then WCW, before they got bought out by the WWF, they were just failing miserably. So, you know, by the time the WWE, WWF took over and started winning after that 83 weeks, that's when you saw the fan base really just drop out. And it's hard to argue with that because, man, it was some bad wrestling back at that point. Some really, really bad wrestling. Well, folks, like I said, we come here to talk, to chat, and to remember. Godspeed. Mr. Turner, thank you for everything you did for professional wrestling. We'll see you next time. And the news has come out that Chris Jericho has returned home. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Dr. Wagner Jr. and almost the man who I've always said is almost a wrestler.
What could he have possibly done for the WWE? This is taking one of your top talents. This is the future of your women's division, and you almost ended it.